Well, hello, internet friends near and far. Welcome to another episode of Parks and Conversation. On this, a special one part of a two-part episode as we look at season 5, episode 13. And today we're going to talk about that episode. It's going to be super fun. My name is Jason. I'm joined by my friend Jeremy. Say hello, Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, man, it is going so well. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
I have been out of town, but now I'm back in town. And
welcome.
Thank you. I love town.
Anything change while you were gone?
No.
Okay.
I wasn't gone long enough for significant change. But I went to Idaho for a couple days for a conference, and Coeur d'Alene is beautiful. And that's really all I know about Idaho.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever spent more than like a couple hours in Idaho outside of Coeur d'Alene. So yeah, anybody listening from Idaho, what's happening? What should I do there if I go back?
Notice that we made 0 comments about potatoes.
Right, because what I learned on my way is as you're going through Vantage, there's a sign there that says Vantage. The county that's in is whatever county it is. Grant, I don't know. Is the largest potato producing county in the country. Not even Idaho has the largest potato producing county in the country. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let Idaho claim something that's just small potatoes, if you will.
Wow. I think this podcast is now over for today. Like I think we should just take that fact and just really marinate on it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to add to this conversation. How much more can we do?
Well, I don't know. I mean, a shorter episode would be great because today's a half day. And as we have said already on this amazing podcast, when half days happen, it's why did we even wake our kids up today?
It's true. Well, this is a to be continued episode anyway, so it can be, right? It's a 2-parter.
Yeah, it is. And as I was watching it, I was like, there's more going on here. Like, oh man, how are we going to cram all this into one half-day edition of Parks and Conversation? and I said, you know what? The first thing we should do is just talk about potatoes.
You're right.
Stay focused. Talk about potatoes. It'll all work out. So when that to be continued sign came up at the end, I was like, oh yeah, good. There's a stop. This is great.
Extra time for potato talk.
Yeah. Now we don't have to rush through potato talk. So
I'm glad we script this out, and I'm glad we write this. That was the potato segment.
All right.
This episode.
Hold up. We haven't talked about the weather yet.
Is it's raining. This episode is awesome. I love this episode and the whole this 2-part arc. This deserved 2 episodes. It's so great. This is some fantastic writing, fantastic character stuff, development, and all of it. It's fantastic. What'd you think about this, even as a half episode?
I loved this half episode.
Yeah.
And I remember that I feel like it was one whole episode when it aired.
Yes.
Like it was a special 45-minute episode. Am I crazy?
I don't think you are.
Okay. So as it was airing, I really was thinking like, oh, this is when Ron punches Jam. Like, all this is supposed to happen today.
Spoilers.
Well, I'm assuming that people who care enough about this podcast to download it have already watched Parks and Rec. And this is just another friend along for the carpool of rewatching. So I was like, how are they going to get all this happening? So it's like everything's going to get set up, and then we're going to have to deal with consequences next week, which is cool. It's fine.
Yeah.
But there's so much funny stuff in this one.
Right.
So
Correspondence Lunch is the next episode, and it also aired on February 21st. So this Leslie and Ben, the episode that we're talking about right now, aired on February 21st. So yeah, it was aired on the same day.
Excellent. Good research.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
I really clicked those buttons.
You did. Good. Well, let's what's happening in this episode, Jeremy? Give us an overview.
Oh man. Well, let's see here. The Pawnee Commons, I don't know, whatever their group is called, are getting together to figure out whether they're going to. They're listening to Jam and Leslie's presentations, and Leslie has an awesome one, and Jam has it was a pretty awesome one too, and just in a different way. And so Leslie is being told that even though hers is better, she doesn't have enough money, so she needs to get some money, and then she can have her park. So she's going to organize a fundraiser of sorts, and hilarity ensues. Meanwhile, Andy is taking his test to be man of police, and we see how that works out for him, like me talking words. So that's pretty much the overview of this episode.
Excellent job.
How did I do?
So good,
because you usually do this for 300 some episodes, so just throw that at me and see how it goes.
Yeah, well, it was great. I really just wanted you to have a good long while where I could get your levels later when I edit it. So,
thank you, sibilance.
Because I last week we overcame great technical challenges, and as I was doing that, I was like, it would be a lot easier if I let Jeremy talk more.
Wow, I'm glad I could help.
So so this episode, it is really about getting to this fundraiser to raise money for Pawnee Commons. And there's two plot lines, really.
Shh, it's my turn now. There's two plot lines, and one.
That's excellent.
I already said them. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
So let's just talk about the two plot lines. But in those plot lines, like the fundraising plot line has so much stuff happening, and it's all happening at the same time. So like I was trying to figure out as I was watching, like how do we break this up and talk about it? And really, we just kind of have to like go through the whole thing, right? I mean, I don't know how to isolate things without because they trigger each other.
They do, but you've done a good job of isolating them with color on your spreadsheet. So
yeah, well, I've isolated two things because the Andy plot line is actually quite short. It's very funny.
It is very funny.
And so why don't we start with that, and then we'll go into the Leslie plot line.
I'm for it.
Okay, so Andy, as we have been noting over the last several episodes, is trying to become a police officer. And so he is now at the point where he's going to take the police officer's exam, which is a big deal. And he's nervous. But I love how he is nervous about the written exam and the personality evaluation. But he feels like he's going to nail it because people always say, but he's got a great personality.
It's the but. It's the but. He's got a great personality.
Yeah. So, so he's leaning into like his charm and his personality, but we'll see. That's not really going to do the job for him. And so April's with him as he's waiting, and so he's asking for run some quiz with him, and it's like, all right, what does a 3542 mean? And he says assault and battery. The way I remember that is I picture 35 salt shakers and 42 batteries. And he was like, awesome, great. So then asks what's the code for arson, and he says 533. And how does he remember that? Picturing 533 salt shakers and batteries lighting a building on fire. So yeah. So those memory devices, those are important. And I know we didn't prep this, listener. I'm surprised. I'd be surprised if you thought we did. But Jeremy, what are your go-to memory devices? Like, say you need to remember somebody's name or a phone number. What do you do?
Yeah, I don't really have any super go-to mnemonic devices. But one thing that I've tried to do more and more is to just repeat people's names, because I'm really bad with names, because I'm just trying to like survive the social encounter in the moment. So I just look at them and repeat their name. Like I don't have one of those cool, like, oh, this is Pete. Pete looks like a pickle. It's Pickle Pete. And then just remember him as Pickle Pete from then on. I just look at him and go, Pete. And but sometimes I say it out loud, and then it gets really weird. So how about you? Do you?
Well, yeah. Well, Jeff, I think one of the things that's really hard is also remembering people's names. I will look to say when I meet somebody to say their name like 3 times before we end the conversation. And that doesn't help.
It probably makes them think that you're either a weirdo or super nice. Wow, this guy really saying my name.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very gracious with remembering names in particular, and because everybody's bad at it.
Yeah.
And so
I started just telling, like, when I forget their names, it's easier than just going around and doing the whole Jim Halpert, like, hey, sport, like that kind of thing. So I just say, if it's been a while, someone's like, will you, especially if it's the second time, say, hey, my bad. What was, can you remind me your name, please? And then once I do that, it's usually sinks in.
Yeah. The worst, though, is when you say, can you remind me of your name? And they say, we've never met.
There you go, people. Just start walking around saying, will you remind me of your name? We went to different high schools together, didn't we?
We went to different high schools together. Yeah. That happens to me all the time, though, because in my job, I meet a lot of people. And so I constantly am saying, can you remind me of your name? And I'm like, never met you. Oh, okay.
Oh.
One time I was like, oh, you look like somebody I know then. And they're like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that information?
I guess I just have one of those faces.
I guess I'm just, beige face.
Beige. Yeah, I blend into a beige wall.
You remind me of a hotel hallway. I can't remember which one, but I've seen a bunch of hotels. So I get really dizzy in hotel hallways because the carpet and the wainscoting and like the patterns and stuff. I get really dizzy if it's too repetitive. The hotel I was at this last week was not repetitive at all. And I was like, this is why this is a nice hotel. I can walk straight down this hallway without thinking Leslie, when she had the flu.
Right.
It's like So anyway, so Andy is using salt shakers and batteries to help him remember all these things. And so, listener, what are your what are your memory devices? I'd love to hear that. Maybe something that you share with us could help other people. So send us an email to parksandconversation@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, tell your friends about this show. And whether you like it or not, just tell them. So
and don't forget to do that. Like set a reminder or use your mnemonic device for that.
Yeah. So if you need to talk to your phone, the woman who's trapped in your phone, I don't want to say the name so that she doesn't start talking to you now. Just call out her name and say, remind me to tell people about this show. And then your phone will probably say, are you sure? and then you reinforce it by saying, yeah, you're not the boss of me. And then she says, turn left into the lake. And you're like, okay. And you go right in. Anyway, so Andy goes in.
Hey, Alexa, play Parks and Rec. I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave.
Open the bay doors. So Andy goes in to take the test, and we get to see him doing the personality test, and to see if he has the right profile.
Wait. Sorry. Super fast in the last scene, because we had that little hiccup there. April gives Andy a present of a rabbit.
Oh, right.
She goes, I found a dead rabbit on the side of the road, and I cut off its feet and made it into a lucky charm, but it's the rest of the rabbit instead of the feet. So it's like, and I just love his reaction. It's like, oh, you're so creepy. I love you.
Yeah. They're made for each other. Yeah. They're just the best. So he goes in to take the test, and the officer who we've seen before is giving the questions to calibrate the test. And he starts with, it's a lie detector test, essentially. And it says, is your name Andy? And Andy responds, I don't know how to answer to that. Everybody calls me Andy, but my full name is Andrew, I think. So
right, I think.
No. And then the next question is, high school age child asked to hold your service revolver. What do you do? And Andy says, I give it to him. When I was a cop, I always wanted to hold a cop's gun, and I want to make that dream come true for another kid. And that's what being a cop's all about. And the officer is just shaking his head. And then,
cops are basically just mini Make-A-Wish foundations, just patrolling the countryside.
Man, I get so nervous. Like, you go to Starbucks and you've got like 4 cops in there on break. I get so nervous that I'm not making a derogatory thing about cops on break or donuts or anything. If you listener, you did that. I didn't do that. You did that. But they're just on break, and I get so nervous that some knucklehead is going to come up and try to take their gun. Like,
That's what you get nervous about.
Yeah, not that I'm doing anything wrong, because I'm not doing anything wrong.
No, I know, but I get nervous about that. I'm like, well, what if I get arrested? I'm like, for what? What are you doing?
You didn't screw back on the half and half lid thing to keep it cool.
And they're going to get me for those mattress tags. I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of tags, I know we are super focused today, but I've been buying new shirts lately. Not to brag.
Congratulations.
But the care tag on the side is really long now.
Because it has a lot of care.
Right. A lot of instructions on how to iron this t-shirt. Have you? And there's a little line that has, I'm looking at it right now. There's a little line that has like
that's how long it is. It just hangs out the bottom of your shirt.
Yes. It's not even hard.
It's like a scroll. It's like an ancient scroll. You just unravel.
Consult the care tomes. And do you ever cut those off?
Never.
I know I can. I know it says I'm allowed in this situation. There's a little scissors there. I have never cut it off.
No, the ones like every once in a while, I'll get them like in a t-shirt or something, and then because they can be scratchy, so then I will. But no, in general, no, you're okay.
All right. Okay, that's another thing to be nervous about when I see the officers. Though, someone's going to try to grab their gun. They're going to be mad that I cut the thing off. Anyway, so Andy is not doing great so far in the test, just like we are not doing great so far being focused on this episode. So then, the last one is get pulled over for speeding. You find out it's your father. How do you handle the situation? And Andy's like, oh, like, well, first I would be like, Dad, you're alive?
The look on the cop's face is just seriously. How do you not get what's going on here?
Yeah, Andy has no sense of hypothetical. It's like, no, really, like this is actually happening. Like, oh, my dad's dead. So,
you guys can do that.
Yeah. But here's one of the questions that I have as well. Like, how much of Andy's personality is because he didn't have a father to set him straight? To say, no, you can't do that, Andy. Like, when did his dad die? Like, that's like, what part of his development did he, did like his when he was playing baseball? Because he also asks his dad, do you know where my catcher's mitt is?
That's true.
Like he was a young kid, and like maybe he just needed a focused adult male role model to help him to kind of say, like, no, man, you gotta like focus on life and learn what hypothetical means.
Let's just say that you're in a situation where you need to answer some questions.
Yeah. Now, son, I'm about to die. I need you to know there's an officer who might ask you a question someday about me being alive. I'm not. I don't know. Like something like that. Andy needed that in his life. So
yeah. Well, his dad was Ego. So that's
right. That's right. Ego, the living planet.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's important. Note. All right. So should we stop here with Andy and his story and come back to it later?
Yes.
Because it comes back later. But
yeah, that's a good call.
Okay. All right. So let's go back then to the beginning, because Leslie is presenting to the Planning Commission and about Pawnee Commons. And her summary statement is that it would be Pawnee Commons would be dynamite. And dynamite stands for daring, youth-friendly, natural, amazing, merry, inviting, tourist attraction-y, and eco-friendly. So the person is the leader of the Planning Commission is like, wow, that's great. Very thorough. So many acronyms. And then Jam's presentation is, I want everybody to please be seated. Let the record show that there was a standing ovation. And Leslie's like, no, there wasn't. History will decide. And so, which is now anytime where I may have some kind of wrong opinion about how good a job I'm doing, I will just say, history will decide.
That's right.
Like, I'm going to build a desk this summer. It's going to be great. History will decide. So Jeremy is like, I could tell you all this stuff. I could do this whole presentation, but I want to sell this to Punchburger, and we make money. They make money. They make burgers. We eat burgers. It's all wins for everybody. Presentation over. And then they wheel in the burgers, and they're eating it. And the Planning Commission is like, are their curly fries. I love their curly fries.
Those
So
burgers looked amazing, by the way.
yeah.
I just like they were huge and fantastic looking, I'll say.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
just like
man.
an awesome roadside non-chain kind of place that you find you're just like, yeah, I would have one of those half-pound burgers.
Absolutely.
Thank
I
you.
went, Kathy and I, when we were in Idaho, we went to a place in Coeur d'Alene called the Collective Kitchen. Best burger I may have ever had in my life. It was so good. Collective Kitchen. And it was the burger was not called the greasy lard bomb like the Punch Burger here, which looked amazing, but it was so so good. Yeah. So Jeremy is really leaning into the attraction to burgers, and I get it. And Leslie asks the planning commission person, like, "Hey, which way are you leaning?" And they said, "We're leaning towards jam. Your plan's better for the community, but you don't have enough money, so we can't approve an underfunded project." And so Leslie is going to have to figure out how to make that money. And this is all happening before the credits. Leslie goes with Tom and Ben to register for wedding presents. And Leslie's upset, but Tom's going to try to cheer her up by registering because, love fades away, but things are forever. and
It's
Ben's
weird because that was part of our wedding, my Terry and I's wedding vows. So
things are forever.
yeah.
Let's get all the best stuff.
For better or for worse, for all of this stuff, forever.
Yeah. That's so good. And Ben is like, wow, that was really beautiful. Did the Dalai Lama say that? And so Tom is like jumping in on the registering stuff. And Leslie it doesn't know, can't get off the $50,000. But then Ben has the great idea. Instead of registering for this stuff, let's register for the park. And so instead of asking for wedding presents, they're going to do a black tie gala where people are going to, raise money through silent auction and donations, all that stuff. And they can put their name on things like parks, like benches, cobblestones. Leslie also suggests trees, ants, air, put their name on it.
Yeah.
And
some of that is possible.
Yeah. And so this is the direction for the episode. And as they're leaving, you see Tom in one of those display beds, which I'm always tempted to get into, but they're also like only 4 feet long. So like I won't fit.
It's a Michael Scott bed.
Yeah. So
I love what they did with the writing here because they told us exactly what Leslie needs. $50,000. It's clear cut. Like some episodes, it's kind of like they have to figure out some weird way to make things work. But this is all laid out right here, and so it's in Leslie's hands. She knows what she needs to do. She has a time limit, and she gets to go for it. And I think that's one of the things that makes this episode really fun to watch, to see all of the hurdles just to get to this clear-cut goal. And it gets Jam out of the way. But then when he comes in, we know why and everything, we know what he's doing and why he's doing it. But she still has to overcome it, which is great.
Yeah. So now it's time to make this happen. And we come back from credits to a 1 week later title card. And she's like, y'all worked really hard, but we have so much stuff to do. So let's keep moving. And so she sends Tom out to get vendors and he starts working with food puns. And Leslie appreciates it, but she doesn't have time for it. Then he's like, I just don't even want to get into the puns. But if I did it, it would have saved more time. But anyway, whatever. And so he takes off. And then, as she's giving instructions to Donna and Jerry, Chris Traeger comes in a police car, sirens blaring, just driving right up to them and yelling out, "Leslie, we need you back at the command center right now. We have a class 1 emergency." And Jerry freaks out and just takes off. Because Gail and the girls, he's worried about them and he just starts running. And Leslie's like, "What's the deal?" And it's like, "Well, this is a drill, but I'm having a lot of fun pretending it's real." And so this is the worst possible time to do one of these drills. But Leslie is the disaster preparedness czar for the city. And they have failed every year. The last report said, I need to read it because I thought it was funny. Every time it so much as drizzles in Pawnee, the town is in danger of collapsing into Thunderdome-style post-apocalyptic mayhem. So they're not set up for disasters. So Leslie has to go, and Ben and Anne and Donna and Ron are gonna take over the rest of the stuff. And Anne's like,
Jason, teach us a little bit. What is a czar? Like what's the difference between like a czar and a person who is in charge of things? And it's like a manager or director.
A czar is a Russian term for that.
Okay.
That's it. So, and she says it later on. She calls herself that in the I am Pawnee Emergency Czar in the very next scene. So it's just a Russian king, basically.
Okay. Well, no, that clears things up as to why they would call them that.
Yeah. So we also have drug czars.
Sure.
And it's not like they're in charge of drugs. They're in charge of the war on drugs.
Okay.
So they manage the band.
As Russian warlords.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to get it all clear. Yes. Okay.
All right. So as they're wrapping this up, Anne's like, should someone tell Jerry? And he's running. And Donna says he'll figure out eventually, but it pans to him as he's running down the street, and he trips over the sidewalk and gets back up and keeps running. So that'll come in later. So go to Pawnee. It's in the council meeting is where the headquarters is for this whole thing. And we have Leonard Chumley. Is that how you say his name? No, Leonard Chlum, who is leading this drill, and he's part of the state's Department of Emergency Preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
And so
played by Matt Walsh.
Yes, and Matt Walsh and not Leslie Knope, the actor who plays Leslie Knope, Amy Poehler, they were a part of the Upright Citizens Brigade together. And so they have a lot of history working together. And so Leslie says, this isn't a great time today. This is a little inconvenient. And Leonard's response is, it's not the best time is when it is inconvenient for everybody. My mother is getting a colonoscopy today, and I'm not sure someone's going to pick her up. So we're all making sacrifices. And he's like, well, I'm sorry to hear about that. He's like, well, we're not that close.
It's like, it's fine.
And Leslie's response is, oh, good. And Leonard looks at her like, what? What's good here that we're not close? So they all have to put on their volunteer victims, all these placards identifying them, with the first responders, sending people out. Everything's going over to where they need to go. And they lock the door, and all the people who are running the command center are locked in there until it's all over. So Leslie is frustrated because most important event ever, but she's locked away and she can't get out there. And so she has to trust that her people are going to do the job. And so they are just going to have to roll with it. And Leonard opens up to say, all right, everybody, we are being hit with a strain of avian flu. And Leslie's excited because that one's an easy one. And she's got binders for everything.
Flus are super easy to get everybody on board to eradicate.
Yes, that is the case. So she's got a binder. Jam is annoyed with her already. But the binder is called Mission Impawnable Nope Protocol. And inside there is a DVD with all kinds of videos for those board games that have DVDs or they used to. Did you ever play any of those?
Yeah, there was a Clue version that came out. Yeah, I think. Yeah, there's a couple of those, and you had to play the game, but then hit play at certain times at the chapters. Right. But yeah, I think Parks and Rec had a episode with that, but it was a CD, I think. Anyway, go on. Yeah, it was the murder. It was the murder mystery one. Sorry, I'm just crossing over.
That's The Office.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, you said Parks and Rec.
No, I know. I said that in my head.
Okay. So Leslie, this is basically Leslie making that game.
Yeah.
And so she has made all these DVDs with news reports where she plays all the people. And so the first one is talking through all of the different medical issues. So it's all happening. But while this is going on, Ben and Donna are talking about chairs, which they don't have any of. And so Ben is like, well, you go get some chairs from somewhere. And Donna's response is, great leadership, inspiring. And then Ben is like, all right, Leslie was going to go on TV on Pawnee Today with Joan Calamezzo to promote the gala. And Ron's like, I'll do it. And Ben's response is, no offense, but I don't think you're great on TV. And Ron just puts him right in his place. Like, I can speak in full sentences and I won't cry.
Fair enough. He's like totally, like he just got slapped.
And so Ron is going to go do that. So then we see Tom talking to a restaurant, a chef, and asking for some donated food for the event. And the guy's like, I don't care. I'm not going to, it doesn't make sense for my business to cater that for free. And he's like, I don't care about Paunch Burger. If it was another French restaurant, then I'd worry about it. And so, so this is not going well for Tom. But it will reveal to Tom something that instead of fancy and French restaurants, maybe he should go a different route. And we'll see that later. So Leslie back in the command center, and she calls animal control because the birds are the cause of the flu. And so she calls up Brett of Brett and Harris of Animal Control. And she says, his response.
We've talked about this before, but Brett and Harris are one of those. They're in the group of people like the tertiary characters, the third wave characters that I think are just if there was one thing I think Parks and Rec could have done more, it was to incorporate animal control just a bit more.
Yeah, turn up the animal control.
I would watch the heck out of a spinoff of Animal Control.
Yeah, I agree. I was just watching the one where we meet these animal control folks with the possum.
Yeah.
And when like they talk to the manager and they're like, I need your best guys. He's like, oh, that'll be Brett and Harris, but they're not in right. And he looks back and like Harris, as like they're throwing footballs back and forth to each other. And he looks and Harris like shakes his head and they're like, but they're not in. And so Tom's like, hey, Brett, hey, man, how'd you know my name? So here's Brett. And Leslie's like, all right, we need to eradicate all the infected birds in town. And Brett, he writes on his hand, kill all the birds.
The giant Sharpie. How much room does he have?
And I was like, well, this is for the drill. And he's like, but I'm actually going to kill these birds for real. No, just pretend.
Right. Come with a gun.
I should fill up a bathtub and just drown them one at a time.
There you go.
And he's like, forget we ever talked. And was like, got it. Kill him. All right. So we also find out that there more and more people are getting infected, and one of them is Chris Traeger, and he has started to exhibit symptoms, and it cuts to a talking head, and he's like, a few months ago, the thought of an infectious disease would have sent me careening toward Bummerville, but I just threw my pen across the room.
We heard that, Jason.
But now I'm infected with a killer virus, and I'm fine. And he's like, therapy. So now Chris is sick, and it's because he rode the bus. And Chris is like, I don't ride the bus. It's like, Chris, hypotheticals here, man. And so
I use it as a windbreak on my bike.
Right. But Leonard just like, well, it doesn't matter. Prepare for the diarrhea, which was what I was going to name this title. But then I was like, no, I don't need that.
Well, yeah, because it's a great title for a podcast.
Prepare for the diarrhea. The diarrhea. Just people Googling that. I got diarrhea. What do I do? Well, all you can do is prepare for it. So Anne calls out, like, well, who was supposed to deal with transit? Why are people riding in public transit when we have the bird flu is essentially the question. And it turns out that was Jeremy Jam. He's a saboteur. And so, so Leslie's like, oh, man, I should have had animal control kill you. And Brett is still on the phone. Who do you want me to kill? And I'll kill him as soon as I'm done with these birds.
Cool.
I love Brett so much. So then we cut to Ron at Pawnee Today, and we see Joan, who is feeling a little under the weather. as she says she went on a booze cruise last week and just finished up an hour ago. And then also on a completely unrelated note, I have horrible allergies. So so Ron's like, all right, well, I need to promote this event. And Jill's like, don't worry about me. I'm a professional. Show must go on. And then she falls asleep. So Ron is just like, it seems like Joan's allergies are kicking in. My name is Ron Swanson, and there's an event at Pawnee Commons today. All proceeds will go towards building the park. It will be enjoyable. And then the producer's like, take a phone call. So he's like, I will take your calls. And so the first one is, who's the sexiest couple in history? Are Pats and K-Stew or Bieber? And Ron just hangs up.
And like zero emotion. Like just like, nope, this isn't worth anybody's time. And he's correct.
I think he probably thought, oh, this is a person calling it with a different language. I don't know what they're saying. So then cut back to Ben, and Donna still can't find, and Ben and Leslie are on the phone. And Leslie's like, Ron's on television. What's going on? Is like, don't worry. Donna also can't find any chairs. And we don't know where Jerry is. So, and now the firemen are using the triage center for the emergency drill. There's so much going on. But then Leonard's like, all right, everybody, panic. Has overloaded cell towers. So they have to lock up all their phones. Leslie's trying to like get Ben all the final things she needs to tell him, and he needs to take all the phones. So now she's locked in and she can't communicate with Ben as he's planning the gala. But on the good news, Donna did find a chair. And she's got a lead on a second.
Keep me posted.
So cut back to Pawnee today. Ron is still there, and he asked the producer, should you take her to lie down somewhere? And he just says, if she ever found out we took her off camera, we'd all be fired. So just keep taking calls. And so we have this long run of Ron doing phone calls. And as he's doing the calls, we see Joan keep moving around the set. At one point, she's planking. So Ron's like, I'm still taking calls, and somebody calls in, what's wrong with Joan? It's like, well, she has a bad hangover and she's pretending it's allergies. And then he gives a hangover cure. And then it's like, well, also, if you have any calls about the gala, I'd love to answer those, or other interests, woodworking, novels about tall ships, meat, that sort of thing. And then cut back to the command center. Turns out Chris died of bird flu. He's dead. Again, he's feeling great because therapy. And so Leslie's like, how much longer is this going to take? And Leonard's like, well, maybe 6 to 8 hours, or 9. And, so she's like, are all these drills this intense? And he said, no, Councilman Jam requested this be hard. We wanted to go all through the ringer. And so now Jam is messing it up. He holds up a sign that says, your move. And he's doing this on purpose to sink Leslie's efforts to raise these funds. Jam is the actual worst. And so Leslie is going to destroy the town so that the drill will end. And
Genius.
So, yeah, she's
Just
going Kobayashi Maru.
That's right. Change the game.
Yeah, all together. Like, she knows, like, this is a drill. It doesn't really matter. But for Leslie, losing...
And they failed how many times?
Every time.
Every time.
So one more time won't hurt. But Leslie knows that, like losing is something that's really hard for her. So this is a growth moment for Leslie to say, like, it's okay if I lose this because I want to win something more important. And so being able to identify the priorities in her life is something that Leslie has always struggled with.
She's growing.
Yeah, we're getting a growth moment here. I'm super proud of her. And so Leslie asks how much flu vaccine do the hospital still have, and says 2,000 people. Just flush it all down the toilet. And then she talks to Chief Fugelberg, find all the infected birds in the area and perform CPR on them. And the chief's like, won't they become infected? And it's like, yeah, it's a risk we're going to have to take. So now we're trying to save all the birds. And
the risk we're going to take. Oh, Dumb and Dumber, when they're like, we gave him a when he has the body armor at the end, when Lloyd Harry, and they're like, well, what if he shot him in the face? Like, that was a risk we were willing to take.
Yeah, what if he shot me in the face? Oh yeah, Harry, you're alive. A terrible shot. Oh man, I love that movie so much. Such a good movie. So
No.
Leslie, I gotta get back on this. Leslie kicks it up a notch to have a tornado quake, so everything's going bad. And then cut back to Pawnee today. Ron is taking another call, and he's asked about a Yorkshire Terrier that chewed up the legs on the table. He says, "Well, take a walnut, rub it into the legs of your table, mask all the scratches. Next thing you want to do is ditch the terrier and get yourself a proper dog. Any dog under 50 pounds is a cat, and cats are pointless. Come to the gala." Next caller. And then he talks so then we just get this montage where he's talking, he's just answering things. So Grapes of Wrath, chocolate chip ice cream, and Johnny Cash. So those are favorite things. Doesn't trust banks. They're all Ponzi schemes, and gets back to his business requirement of whatever happened to have. I have some apples. Would you like them? Yes, thank you. That's as complicated as it should be to open a business in this country. And then the 3 movies he's seen in his life: Bridge Over River Kwai, Patton, and Herbie Fully Loaded. So then we cut back to the command center, and Chris says that's a wrap. Pawnee's dead, including Councilman Jam. So everybody's dead, and says, it says right here, "You're dead, so is everyone you care about." And Jam's response is, "Joke's on you. I don't have anyone I care about."
Oh.
Leonard says, "This is bad. This is Fort Wayne bad." Which, I would love to see that. What happened in Fort Wayne?
Oh, Fort Wayne?
Yeah, this is Fort Wayne bad.
Yeah, do you mean the 1913 flood that caused 7 deaths, left 15,000 homeless, and damaged over 5,500 buildings in the worst natural disaster in the city's history? That Fort Wayne?
Is that what he's talking about?
I think so.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Pretty sure. Yeah. Fort Wayne's pretty amazing. They also, or it could have been when the Fort Wayne Pistons moved to Detroit in 1957.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Fort Wayne.
You're telling me the Detroit Pistons came from Fort Wayne?
Yeah, they were an ABA team, the Fort Wayne Pistons, before the NBA merger.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Did you also know that Fort Wayne innovations and inventions such as the gasoline pump, the refrigerator, and the very first home video game console came out of Fort Wayne?
I did not know that either.
Yeah. Do you know what the very first video game console was? That's right. It was the Magnavox Odyssey.
That's right.
Yeah. It was released in September 1972. So there you go. But
Wow.
that's probably what he was talking about, is all I'm saying.
This has been This Day in Geography. Cool. All that happened. So Leslie is bummed that everything failed, but also hey, we're out of here. Everyone, see everyone at the gala, and looks at Jam and says, "I will see you in hell."
Which always is funny because that means she's going to hell,
I guess. But nope is it's too late. Nope, that lot is mine. And she's leaving. She's like, "I can't hear you. I'm a ghost." And Jeremy's like, well, I'm a ghost too. You just got ghost jammed.
And he does this little sour face recoil.
Yeah. So then cut to the gala. Everybody is all dressed up and ready to go. And Jerry's like, "We got all the way to Muncie before we realized it was just a drill." I mean, you could have called me. And Tom's like, "Well, no one had your number."
Oh.
But Tom wouldn't have known that Jerry took off because Tom was off doing his own thing, right? So he can't be held responsible. It's Donna and Ann and Ben and Ron who just let Jerry go. So so everything's good to go. Everything's happening. And so they get there and they Les like, "How did you do get all this food?" Tom is like, "Well, instead of going to the fancy places, I went to the other Punchburgers competitors and got all the fast food places to donate food. And it's, not super fancy for a gala, but it's what it is." And Leslie's like, "I love it. And also it will win over all of our ample citizens." So, and then Ben talks about how Ron just did great on Jones' show. And Ron's just like, "I helped a child perform a tracheotomy on his elderly uncle. It's been a very rewarding day." And then, so all of the things turned around from what was going to be a disaster to a great success, good benefit. And
great success.
At the benefit, Chris talks to Chief Fugelberg, and he says, "Hey, that's your friend Andy over there, right?" And Chris is like, "Oh, did he fail?" He's like, "No, he got 100% on the written, but he failed his personality exam." He's a sweet kid, just doesn't have what it takes to be a cop. And Chris is bummed. And they could, and the chief says we could use his brains on the force, which I don't know how, but apparently his memory device of salt shakers and batteries is what you need for good police work. And it cuts to Andy and April, and Andy's trying to show April different police holds that keep the person from being able to attack the officer. And every time April's able to hit him. And he's like, but if I had my gun, you would think twice about hitting me. So, so then Leslie gets up and announces they reached their fundraising goal, which is awesome. And everybody was so helpful. And she says, no one achieves anything alone, which is absolutely true. We need us. And so then she has Pawnee, it's the greatest band, play. It's Mouse Rat. And they have changed the words of the pit to a park. So they're going to build a park. It's not built yet, but soon there will be a park. Those are the lyrics. So Anne brought Leonard to see the gala because she wanted him to see why Leslie tanked the drill. Leslie would have passed it, no problem. And Leonard's like, I believe you. Maybe I'll come back in a month or so. And then asks Leonard, have you ever thought about being a sperm donor? So we don't want to forget that thread of the story of Anne's life. So bring it in here. And he just says, I'm impotent. I don't need to know that. And she walks away. And so Leslie and Ben are like, man, this has been so great. And this is the best present ever. I wish we were getting married tonight. And Ben's like, well, why don't we then? All our friends are here. It's black tie, got food, entertainment. You wanted to invite the whole town. Let's get married tonight.
It's a good point.
Boom.
And way cheaper.
Yeah. They didn't even actually have to pay for anything. The city paid for it.
Genius.
Which probably is illegal.
Conflict of interest?
Probably. So it's a boondoggle. And so the credit scene is one of Leslie's videos from her game DVD. So about the earthquake. And at the end, my favorite part of the end is the credits are rolling and she's singing the news theme song. She's humming it. And all the credits are everything is Leslie Knope. So
and the reporter's name is Jessica Rabbit.
Rabbit. Jessica Rabbit.
Rabbit.
Yeah.
She has a W in the front.
Yeah. So great. So great. Anything else that we need to highlight from this episode, Jeremy?
I don't think so. Not that I saw. I think the next episode is the Correspondence Lunch. This episode did get a 9.2 on IMDb, and rightfully so. This is a fantastic episode.
I agree.
In my opinion.
And it's only half of the episode. There's more to come. So next week, when we talk about that episode, we'll see what happens at the rest of this gala. Do Ben and Leslie get married? Yes, do.
Oh, yeah. Does somebody get punched?
Also true.
I like this. Now we could just end every episode on trivia.
Wait, what are you looking at? You said it got a 9.2. I'm looking at emergency response. It has an 8.6.
Oh, I was on the next one. Shoot,
Come
you're right.
on, man.
I know.
Come on.
I'm the unreliable computer guy now.
Yeah, you're the guy in a adjustable at a standing desk. You're not even the guy in the chair anymore. So, all right. Well, we should wrap this up because, as we said, we do have a half day for our children, and they might be released at any minute.
We never know.
So that's the real emergency preparedness. So, all right. Well, listener, if you have some memory tips, please email us. It's what is it?
So then I have to redact that because I was looking at the wrong thing because emergency response, was on Valentine's Day, February 14th. Leslie and Ben is the second half was a week later, but then it was a double episode. The Correspondence Lunch was on that same day as Leslie and Ben, the second part of the two-parter. So just before everybody emails in, we just get inundated with this was not the right dates.
Mm-hmm.
I've now at the end, like it's the next issue, and I've got that little redactment, area done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. We regret the error that you have not heard yet, but as you're listening to this, you have heard it.
There you go.
So,
Thanks, Purd. All right. Well, then I'll talk to you next week.
All right. We should stop. All right. I'll talk to you later, Jeremy.
Bye.